Okay, there is divine timing for everything. Years and years ago, when I started to study Dharma, detachment, I had went through a ring-a-rule sort of experience. We're talking where you feel as though you lost everything. There was a time after my surgery and I was in a wheelchair. Lost my dog, lost my ex-husband. Even it seemed like because of the tragedy that occurred, there was a part of even my son I lost. It was traumatic for him, traumatic for me, traumatic for my ex. So when it comes to spirituality, be sure to stand your own and be your own guru. I'm doing this for everyone. Just like I have my addictions prayer grid, it wasn't just for certain individuals in my family. It was evolved in a way it was for all of humanity. That's what's so crazy about this. There is times where I do pray only for those that I truly, truly love and that are near and dear to my heart, that I care about. And really we're to pray for everyone. Not that we take upon our shoulders everything. Have faith, have hope for change. Cutting the chains of abuse and saying no means no. So Archangel Michael in this little pouch, Angel Michael, one of the same, Saint Michael, if you want, you can see all three of them. I say sadhu, sadhu, sadhu to that. Daring, okay? If you can say sadhu, sadhu, sadhu to Buddha, you can say sadhu, sadhu, sadhu to the relics. You can even say it to the deities, the devis, to the angels, to your ancestral. You can, it's kind of like a praising word, good, good, good. And so just know that to be. There are these cards that came up that were on my counter for quite some time next to my Buddha board. I don't know if you can see it, but it's right here. Well, maybe you can't. It's a Buddha board. It's right there. So every day, what is it you want me to know? So in a way, some people call higher self. I don't believe in higher selves. I used to at one time, I really did. But there was something in me that clicked a long time ago. There was separation in the family with my sister, and I hadn't talked to her for 16 years after my mom passed away. And so it's just interesting how that can unfold. Considering her birthday's on the 16th of March, and it has passed, and then the 6 plus the 1 is 7 for Buddha. So either way, these cards. So when you look at Angel Gabriel and synchronicities, I was telling a special needs girl who is so brilliant. I mean, I don't even know if I like that word. I really don't, because it seems like separation, segregation. Why not see the magnificent being she is? It's like an Albert Einstein of his time. So here she is. I was saying to her how she was talking about how her mom sometimes in the car and how it's her story to tell and her experience. But either way, I was saying, well, look at license plate. See how the synchronicity of what is in license plates. Like literally count them up and see all the synchronicities. And it's pretty amazing because when you know your numbers, like 7 is one of my numbers for sure, 9, different numbers I can resonate with. And I know that it's the divine source, a greater source. Some say God speaking to you. God is love, love is God. Some say even greater than that. Depending on your faith, your belief, it's okay with me, okay? Don't get me wrong, there's some that have rubbed me the wrong way of different faiths, and we have to love, no matter what, love each other. And despite the challenges sometimes when I'm alone and the thought forms that come in and the toiling, it's like I said, devil's lettuce. It's almost like things come in and then you're standing, you're strong. You don't have to defend yourself, okay? There's ways that you can distract yourself, keep going, keep persevering, see the faith within yourself, see what comes to the surface, how you react, why is it you react in the manner that you react. I know myself, I've been edged out from my son right now because he doesn't believe in the spirituality, and that's okay. Whatever path he's on, I just know that I'm like, okay, you know what? There's puppeteers out there doing shit on social media, veering people towards certain interests, and then it kind of paves a path for that person. That is their choice and what it is they do. Either way, I just have to pray for a greater good. There has been moments and times where, let's just say, Angel Daniel and happiness and bringing it forth from me in times of sorrow, in times of dark night of the soul, even though I don't want to even label that. It's not that I'm spiritually bypassing. It's just that I know shit about that as well. It's like as soon as somebody knows you may be in a dark night of the soul, next thing you know, you're abandoned, you're isolated, you're segregated because of those that wish ill regard and ill intent towards you. And so still find your own happiness, however it may be. Whatever brings you joy, a smile to your face, Angel Daniel is there. And so what happened, you see, is breaking the chains of abuse. Saying no means no. But even knowing that someone is not them, is not themselves, knowing that the earthbound spirits and Angel Gabriel reminds us to still respect those earthbound, because sometimes what will happen is humans will use them for trickery. They will entrap spirits for their own benefit, to say the least. See how my eye winked like that? That's not me or myself, but me and myself is speaking now. I spoke about this before. I spoke to another today who I was guided to do it, and in a divine timing way. I was at a point where I didn't say anything. I went in my car, and then I was like, okay, I have to go back and tell this person this. And sometimes it's hard because you don't want to affect anyone's ascension in any manner, but at the same time, you just have a clear knowing. It's just like when I was in the store, and it was like, okay, Tracy, I'm like buying cards, doing different things, and I'm like, okay, my sister-in-law who died from a ruptured stomach was a hard loss for my family that was in unity at that time, and hard on me as well. And so she was with me in a different way. And so I'm sure the person behind the counter could see that in just how I displayed myself. And that's okay. Not that I'm saying, okay, possess me, take over me, hijack me, walk in. Spirit is different. They're a spirit that crosses over, and they come and they're around us. They're around our auric field. They know not to be disruptive. They know to be of love and kindness. They know to be, of being of light that they are. And so at times I feel like my dog, let's just say, has spirit that transcends to her where she is not her or herself. Please no. Even though she's a puppy, don't get me wrong. And we're told in training, don't use the word no, don't use the word no. And I'm like, oh my. Well, guess what? When a kid's about to touch the stove, pardon me for a moment, and you say no and they touch it and they get burned, they learn pretty quick, don't they? Either way, to say the least, a dog is like a kid to many, their child, to say the least. So I'm not here to argue how people do their training with their animals, to say the least. There are those that do amazing jobs, and I'm just going to leave it at that. So back to how it is, and simplicity. Don't mind me, I have a toy that she's pulling on as I speak. And so here's Angel Sarah, and I know that. I don't even have to look at that. Simplicity. There's simplicity in life. Sometimes you can't be attached to the label. So I've been a mom for over 31 years. Nobody can take that away from me. They can't. The memories of what is, even if you have Alzheimer's, dementia, it's stored. The memories are stored. So no matter what, evil, I'm not saying, because there's good witches, there's good warlocks, there's good sorcerers, there's good that does, voodoo and black magic, because they've been taught a certain way with ethics within the universe, the cosmos, ethers, oh my gosh, on the earth plane, planets, wherever and whatever you believe in is okay with me. And so you get there, and these people will play trickery because they've been tricked. So then you'll have somebody that's a sorcerer that will puppeteer. You go to a classroom environment, in person, this does happen, where all of a sudden you're in there and everything seems, oh, you meet new people and this and that's going on. Believe it or not, some of you are hypnotized. And you're hypnotized the day before. So some of these instructors will astral project, astral travel, do some sneaky shit. See that spirit that just went by? They'll do some sneaky stuff. And so then, and I'm not telling you this to be fear-mongering. I'm talking truth here from my own experience. My own experience, okay? And so you go into a classroom environment, and the next thing you know, especially if you have spouses working together and doing sorcery work together, one will be, let's just say, in another room. They could be at home. They can come in a classroom environment, bear witness, play sorcery, trickery stuff, even with the students. It's almost like you're a bunch of mice being played with. But then what happens to them is it ricochets back with ill regard, ill intent in ways like in a karma sense, in merit sense. And so you have to be very cautious in what you say, what you do. Oh my gosh, I've been learning over and over and over again. But I speak my truth, my experience, and what has happened with me. And so back to what I was talking about, being in a wheelchair. I was housebound for quite a while. It was during COVID, and it was by myself, other than the nurses coming to visit. My son, don't get me wrong, after this incident happened, he came to the hospital. Him and his girlfriend, Kamala, were wonderful, and I'm appreciative of it. They did not know what was going on. They themselves were puzzled. They were traumatized. They were trying to be the best that they could be, even to a point where at the time, my son didn't even know that my ex robbed over $100,000 out of the bank and took it, amongst other things. Even I saw how they went to this restaurant together because I could tell by the dollar value of the amount and how they must have discussed family concerns. One would feel abandoned at the time. And if you only knew what happened beforehand, there was healers and teachers that were playing trickery, amongst other things, with my life. Because I would write things online like living heaven on earth. I remember one teacher, every time I'd go on, I'd feel this pain in bodies. I'm like, it's not mine. Why would I feel so great? And then go online for this one teacher in person where I feel like a gaping hole on my side. I'm like, what's going on? I'm doing my work, don't get me wrong. But what is really going on? I've learned so much since then, even being whom I am today. You don't want to know what she's doing. So either way, I just know in my heart there's still trickery and game playing going on. And this can also happen in a way, and I'm sorry to break it to you, your ancestral line. Somebody recently died, they're going around, and they think they know what they're doing. And then they find out, they cross over, and as they are, they're saying, I'm sorry, because they learn really quick how they've caused havoc and pain and suffering that wasn't originally planned. It wasn't part of your ascension. It wasn't part of your plan. It derailed you. It caused certain things where they thought they could do the work when they haven't done their own work, haven't completely saw their own life review, haven't crossed over to see what it is. And it's almost like they get shortchanged on the earth plane because they can get stuck in a grief realm with others. There's people that go through the obituaries and will entrap spirit. Me, when I've seen an obituary and they come for a visitation, I've never met them, and I find out some things about them, sometimes I'll totally ignore them, even though I know they're of light and they're of beings. And it's like, okay, you might want to move on into the light. And it's not even that. Some people believe that they just find their own way and that they know. It's part of the journey. It's like in Buddhism, the 7 days, they're doing all their visitation amongst other things. And there has been enlightened beings that have visited me that are known as relics on the other side, that are still doing their work. They can still come and go, especially the famous, and they know. And then they'll work with the famous. They'll work with those that they know, oh my, I see their creation. I see what they're doing. Wow, I had no idea, kind of thing. And so This is the thing with Angel Raphael and enlightenment. You think of your crown chakra. I mean, Buddhists used to think if you drilled out your skull, a hole in your skull, you'd be free and you'd be enlightened. Can you imagine? That's no worse than a witch setting the head on fire so they can escape all the clairvoyance that they were receiving. Or at the stake, right? All that would come to them because they had a clear knowing. And so, don't get me wrong, I've had my hair caught on fire twice in this lifetime. In a way, with the frostbite and being lost in the country and not being able to find my way back, and knowing people were transcending in animals back in 2020. They've been doing this way longer in other countries and other cultural things. And so people are doing it today. And so you're tested to be trying these things. I remember when I was housebound, I remember spirit visiting me. And you can get lost in a dry sense of humor where other people could be tortured easily. And you do not want to be tested that way. You really don't. It's kind of like, no, thank you. It's almost like when you meet somebody who has sold their soul. I guess some say, oh, you're a soul survivor. Because there are those that will get entangled in stuff, and they're joining all these groups in a universal way, even in the cosmos, everywhere you can imagine, in order to obtain a status with boots on the ground sort of way. And so they'll do this uncanny stuff, and it's like they're being puppeteered. It's like somebody walking in a store, and then all of a sudden you see out of nowhere the unusual behavior where they're putting their hands in the seed, which is bird seed, which is scooped up, and people are taking home with them. Or people touching things and saying prayers in an unusual, unethical way where it's not of love. Like, I know I've picked up items and felt the vibration in my vagina. I'm like, yuck, right? So somebody went around touching things and obviously putting curses and hexes and whatever else on the product. And I've experienced that not too far from a store near where I live. And then people will do what we call downwinding. And that's not cool either. And then there's just, like I said, the hijacking or the walking in and doing unethical things with not the greatest intention because they're full of curiosity. They're being tested, and instead of saying no thank you. I'm talking about there's people that do seance, they get together, they're like automatically assuming somebody needs healing or somebody, and at the same time they could cause more damage, more harm. That's why even in Reiki, if you're sending healing, it's into divine timing when it's well received. Because really, people have freedom of choice. The sovereign beings, they have choice in what it is they decide they're going to receive. If you get trickery in spirit and they're like, I owe you, or you're hearing somebody, for example, saying something, so you're like, first they'll be all really good to you, okay? Some of people awakening at first, it's kind of like an angelical presence that surrounds you. It's all beautiful, and you're feeling these emotions, you're feeling this stuff, and me, I've been like on and off since I was 2, and even when I was a teenager and premonitioning things, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know I was premonitioning things until much later in life. Everything from my first, pendulum where my mom was mad. I mentioned that in another video. See how I'm doing that? Somebody said when you're doing that it's spirit. I don't know if I believe that to be true. And so I guess other than we are spirit, we're human spirit, then there's spirit that is the invisible, that can be a combination of all kinds of beings, to say the least. And I mentioned them before, I don't have to mention them again. And so when it comes to you as your own guru, do what comes from here. No matter what anyone tells you, okay? Use discernment. I say this all the time. I'm not going to be fear-based because somebody says, oh, your friend of 30 plus years is seeing your videos kind of thing. Well, thank you. Thank you. May you see the light I am. And no, do not concern of me, because I believe that when people assume or anyone places judgment upon anyone, it sometimes can manifest and catapult. So, for example, I'll give you an example. Have you ever found yourself going somewhere, but you don't go to where you think you're going to go? It's like your team going, okay, we'll work this out. And so today, for example, I had full intentions of going to church. Before that, some people or beings were saying, oh, but your friend goes to that church now. You don't want to go to that church. Or the once friend that I had. I have friends, but this friend of mine. I'm like, well, wait a second. I've been going to that church for many years. I went to that church before. I went to this other church where they do, channel readings and everything. I went to this Catholic church before, and I met the bishop before this priest that's there now. And I used to send healing all the time, even to point to the guy next to me. I remember when he heard from his brother, and he was like, holy shit. And I'm sitting there, and I'm hearing this conversation. He gets up, and anyway, to say the least, there are times where you're in the right place at the right time. It's divine timing, even if you don't plan it. So today I was going to a church. Then a friend invited me to an event. And I was really questioning it because I wanted my dog to be with me. I didn't want to have to fuss and bring in a dog to another church when I know this Catholic church has no problem with a dog being in a pouch and you know what I mean? And is not disruptive, is of love and kindness. They're not going to mind. And if somebody complains about it, it's their problem. Let them own it. And so either way, I took her to not one park, but two. It was a really interesting experience, to say the least. But when I got home, I got a message from my son. I didn't even know who the message was until the very end of the message. I kid you not. I'm a transmedia. I'm going to say Lord Love a Duck. If he was going to hear himself. Now, maybe I didn't delete it. Maybe I have to hear it again more than once. But right now, I've went through enough pain and sorrow in the last couple of days. I don't need to be stuck there. Let it just be as it may, being here and now as a human being. The Dharma teachings and detachment and cutting the cords, unplugging, however it may be. And like Archangel Michael, blessings, please. I call upon other angels and everything else. And I realized, like, it's so uncanny how Spirit comes forward. And I had a conversation with his girlfriend before, and I was just like, yeah, I need to get you to get some selenite. Like, and how do you come out to non-believers that you need selenite on top of your windows and your doors? You need freaking selenite. It's my firm belief, but I have to have faith and hope that the angels are doing their thing for their highest and greatest good, however it may be on the path, as long as the darkness isn't playing witchery, warlock / voodoo / sorcery in a bad, horrible way. I just know that I heard someone who may have gotten trapped with demonic stuff that she herself has played others, and I have to stand back and I have to go, it's gonna unfold the way it's meant to. But I know she wished me real ill regarding ill intent in a way where I feel like the trickery and the stuff, and maybe it's because she knows I know that her father is gang affiliated and different things when it comes to substance abuse and everything else going on, and she's hanging on by a wire, as many of us are. And so with this tidal wave and experience before the 21st and prior, there were things that were being untangled. And I believe in this, and some are going to think I'm nuts, but it's Jesus Christ, Ascending Master Jesus, Yeshua, whatever. Yeah, whatever you want to refer to him as, Jehovah, whatever. That's okay with me. That just is. And so he's untangling the red tape, okay? I'm not freaking kidding you. He rises up in each and every one of us in different ways, depending on your faith and what you believe in. Sometimes he'll rise up in people, they don't even freaking know it. They find themselves being cordial, kind, sweet, genuine, enlightened being at a time where they wouldn't normally be, because maybe that person, they've had some, and it may come across as maybe even passive aggressive behavior. It's not, especially when other people view, especially maybe somebody had come forward and bitched and complained about somebody, and then you're seeing it like a day later and you're like, did that person just not really say some not nice things? And meanwhile, you want to live by no regard, no intent, no jealousy. It's toxicity. And you want to be of love and kindness moving forward. And I know there are those who are like, no, she's got to know what it's like that I went through this. She's got to know that I had it off worse than she did. Stop that shit, you guys. Stop comparing yourselves. When I work mental health, Lord love a duck, how many times therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, and those turn around and say, well, when you compare yourself to this, you can see how much better off you are. What are we all on a friggin' competitive market in human mankind to compare ourselves to one another because of the crisis situations each and every one of us have, and then to diminish and devalue those people that have been in serious crisis and look at them like, they're not well together, they're ill, they're sick, they're this, they're that. Like, how dare you? You will see. There'll be a time in your life where I believe each and every human being goes through a crisis of some sort or another. They really do. They go through major crisis situations that can be very much of pain and suffering. And we're talking many losses here. Don't minimize somebody because they went through a divorce and go, I hope that doesn't happen to me, and not realize what it's like to be in their shoes. Don't turn around and say you care, when in actual fact, trust me, there are those that really care. I know I've worked in mental health where I've looked at people and went, holy shit, that person was the one that helped that person in a crisis situation, and they themselves aren't well. Like, who the hell am I? Who was I to bear judgment way back in the day? I've been there in situations where I talked a guy out of hanging himself in the bathroom, and I didn't even know I did it until after the fact. And he told me, oh, if it wasn't for you to say hello and to take the time for me and to be there for me, they would have found me hung in the bathroom. So you never know who you come across on your path, because there are those that are playing trickery with people's lives. There's been tricksters playing with my life since I was very young. Like very, very young. And there is that of the divine that shows me. And then there are those in this lifetime that are accessing people's records, like their life reviews before they parts, bits and pieces. So they don't have it all together. They don't really know truth. And so then when you get that opportunity where you no longer carry this body, this vessel, and you cross over and you see a life review from a wide perspective, guess what? Karma is a real thing. And I'm not talking about just bad, good too. They call it merit. There's good merit, there's bad merit. There are those people that are talkative. There are people that are not talkative. There are people that they say, oh, you're so balanced because of this, or it's all perspective. There's no right or wrong in the way things are done. Even you as a healer, or you may be a professional that says, I don't want anything to do with this shit of spirituality. I am a non-believer. I am atheist. Well, you know what? You live the life you live. You have freedom of choice as it may, however it may be. The more we attack one another, I'm just bringing awareness to all of you so you know that this is real. This is not an illusion. Everybody's experience needs to be heard. You cannot devalue people's experiences. There are game players out there that want to sweep things under the carpet. We're talking about dark shit. Don't get me wrong. There are those that are quite the detectives, and it's friggin' amazing. They say, oh, wow. And because of their expertise, because of their experience, seeing how people are game played like it's a big game and we're all characters. And it's also like, this coach told me once, she's like, yeah, close that cavalier curtain. You're off duty. You are not in the play. Like, just be with what may. You will find yourself in what it is that's going to work for you. Pardon me. You see my agitation? See, I'm human after all. And so there is times where you're like, okay, I'm being tested. I'm going to keep persevering. And see, she's like looking over there, and then she looks at me, and I'm like, okay, what are you looking at? Okay? You should see, sometimes spirit will be in the car, and they go, because I have a little Buddha on my dash. I have some sweet grass wrapped around. I have this little parachute thing for her, because of Alan. I'm like, okay, Alan, watch out for her. And different things. And so, and obviously Doug must be watching out for her too. And never mind Rowan. I'm like, even for my friend who kind of comes and goes in my life and I worked with for many years, I'm just like, okay, we have to be careful what we manifest. I'm like, can you know I have a nice dog like Doug, you know, but instead like Doug in the back of a cart or some kind of device that's behind this person's bicycle so that this beautiful dog can have a beautiful experience with him, so that it can help him with his daily living because of the things he has to face every day. You know, this little one was brought into my life for good reason. And, you know, and Spirit can try to mess with me and say, oh, but you would be traveling the world right now if you didn't move into this house and you stayed in your condo. Guess what? I went through major trauma in my condo. Major trauma, and I had to leave. And so there are things that unfold for good reason. It's like last night on the Buddha board, the numbers added up to this address and the message, and I'm like, okay, then it's meant to be. And this is higher. This is God. Make fun of me all you want in the name of love, which Buddha is working with in a unique way that most people don't understand. I believe in blended spirits. I believe that, you know, there are those that have blended spirits, and that's why you might find you connect with someone and then you're going, oh my gosh, you mean this ascending master is their ascending master, and that's why they're such a detective and they're really good at it? Or, oh wow, look at this one, and then you find yourself and you're like in a picture with this ascending master who is also known as a deity or deity or whatever, and you're in the picture and then you're like, oh wow. And then you see, oh my God, see how my eyes just wink in a certain way. And then you find yourself where somebody will send you a video in gratitude, and it's warm and near and dear to your heart because you're of service in a different way with no expectations. And then you receive something and then you're like, wow, thank you. Thank you. You get it. I get it. Thank you. Let's be of love and kindness. And sometimes we can get caught up in that, woo, and it'll be crazy. Because take that out of your vocabulary, just like prejudice. Take it out of your vocabulary, because there is things that live amongst us, that is around us all the time. Some of us see it, some of us don't. Some of us hear, some of us don't. Some of us feel, some of us don't. Even when there's an assessment done, when it comes to controlling human mankind, there are some people, and it's true, I've been taught this, there's a fine line. And the trickery and the dark forces, the dark faces, those that cause irregardless intent, jealousy, the gameplay to a point where in desperation, they'll cause pain and suffering of others. And they will bewitch, they will do evil things. And then people start finding out, and they get very defensive. And they're like, holy shit, I could lose my business because these people are figuring out my game and what I'm doing that may be unethical to most of human mankind. Or there are certain things that end up happening, and people end up in hospitals, things start happening to them. You see things are coming out of the works. People are speaking the truth. They're like, okay, I was freaking possessed. This is an old thing. Trust me when I say this. I have been possessed. I remember one girl coming to church, and thank God one of the elders was there at that time. She was meant to be to speak to this girl. And I remember, I believe it was a piece of selenite. And this girl, oh my gosh, she was going all over the church. She was moving seats. And you knew she wasn't her herself because she was probably under the influence of something. And Spirit loves that when you use alcohol and drugs. They will play havoc with you. And so, but for some reason, not always with marijuana. I'm not an advocate for it. but I'm also not against it. People are being taught it causes psychosis. And when I say, and I use devil's lettuce in the brain because of co-occurring disorder, there are things like acid. Like, we're talking about things that are made in a kitchen sink at one time, way back. And they're like crystal meth and all this stuff that really messes up with people. Even SSRs, right? There's warnings, signs and symptoms and stuff that you have to be really careful of. But it even goes beyond that. I'm not the expert in it, but I can tell you, just from experiences, I remember way, way back when I was feeling really down and depressed, and my mom had cancer. And I remember I was going through my bags, and just before she died, she got so mad. She goes, "What are you on that shit for? Get off that shit." And at that time, I was taking the medication. I was quite obese. Like, you have to see the pictures. I was even to a point where my husband lost interest in me, that he ended up having a fling with somebody at work. And I remember not knowing that at the time, but saying, "Go see the doctor, go see Dr. Howard," who is now, at the University of Manitoba. And so he's the dean there, and I'm pretty sure he may still be, or maybe not, maybe he's retired. Blessings to him either way. But I remember saying, "Go see him." And then things started to unfold, and we're at a Christmas event, and this woman was around, and then all of a sudden he breaks the news, "Oh, that's my wife. Basically, you're sitting in her chair." And it's like, holy shit. It's like way back in the beginning of our marriage when he was physically abusive. There was one main event, but he was under the influence of alcohol, no buts, but there were other things throughout our marriage. It was like walking on eggshells. Maybe I was on stilts, as somebody just shared with me. Either way, that's interesting. I want to look more into that. And so the point being is that, by the way, that wasn't my word to use. It just came through, and it can go now. And so walking on eggshells. And so these things were happening and unfolding. And don't get me wrong, self-reflecting. I've sat on my phone and wrote out things and finding the good, finding the love, finding those moments, finding the things I can cherish, finding the memories that are things you can cherish. It's like me looking at pictures and seeing cherishable moments. For some reason, they teach in spirituality, when you're broken up from a relationship or whatever, burn the pictures, release yourself from it, let it go, and move on. I agree to let it go and move on, but it doesn't mean you have to destroy those pictures. This is the father of my son. So now when I see the pictures, it's been 5 years, I smile. I kind of like, oh, I remember that. He was reading a book, the first book he ever read, not giving a shit about whatever it was, that book. And so it's rather interesting, right? How these things can unfold, and you reflect back and pay gratitude for it, and then see where you are and where you're meant to go. At the same time, I never knew back in 2019, because that was a time when I remember this feeling and standing in front of my dresser and being told, "You're enlightened." And but then, of course, after that, I got gaslighted. My marriage, there was, like, I remember putting in the ground crystals, and you'd think I would learn by now. This woman who would transmit through animals, obviously transmitted through the land, and she did unethical things. And maybe her as a collective opened a portal, I don't know. But I remember standing in the living room after there was an altercation. I didn't quite know what was going on. I myself, back at our other place, was being harassed by beings. And so, of all different sort, played with, toiled with. And this woman was a part of it, and she knows it. She knows it. And causing pain and suffering, and she has to own that. And I have to let that go. Maybe now it's been over 5 years, I can make a review on her social media page, but I'll tell you, shit would hit the fan in the spiritual community if I was to do so, because tangible stuff. But I also have to reflect on the good things as well. And then, of course, but then maybe not, right? Depending on what's going on now, because Spirit's been bringing me things where I've had guests and they've shared things with me, and I'm like, oh my, good thing I've been staying out of it. But then it's like, how is this stuff unfolding? And then you wonder, is that person being tortured because they opened up to me and told me? And the same thing goes with someone else, but another place, and the trickery and the bullshit that they do, putting hooks and daggers and different things when they're doing, you know, let's just say invocations and other things. Again, they go and they visit, and people will do things that are very uncanny. And you just know when they're around, and they'll send spirit to play trickery and stuff. And you can feel it, you know it, you sense it. And then when you get spirit telling you bullshit, or they transmit through them, and they're in a classroom environment, and they're telling everybody, oh, if you feel pain around your stomach, you're ill. Imagine that. So what about those people that have MS? You know, and so it's like, you're telling people you're ill. How are you ill? Are you saying ill-regarded intent about bodily and mental suffering? So sometimes these teachers, you have to use caution, you use discernment, because sometimes they'll say things and you're like, interesting. Don't bear judgment on it if you can. It's really hard, trust me. At the same time, you might be in a state where you are hypnotized, not even realizing it. Because have you ever been in a classroom environment or been online, and then you're like just listening, and then you're like, did I really hear that right? But you don't rebuttal. You don't say, excuse me, did I hear you correctly? Did you just say this? And then it's like a deer in headlights later, your spiritual team, and it's like you're processing it, and you're like, I really did hear that, didn't I? Or, depending on how you hear, sometimes some people will hear one thing, okay? And then you hear something different. Now, is that spirit playing trickery? Or is it the essence of you and your experiences bringing forward something that you've had experiences with others coming forward, and you hear something very different than someone else? You see something very different than someone else. You feel something different than somebody else. I'm not kidding you. When it comes to a greater understanding of this, trust me, they will play trickery. They will play. I remember seeing, I'm not going to say client. I was a guest in someone else's house, and I was doing healing. And this was back, oh my gosh, I can't remember how many years ago now. I'm not sure if it's 20, 21, somewhere in there, 20, I can't remember. Either way, I remember it was with an indigenous man who said he was an elder. They were playing trickery with him so bad. Like, we're talking so bad. That when Spirit and I were there, and different things that were going on, it was like I couldn't wait to get out of that house so quickly. He had to go, and I didn't realize he had pain medication he wasn't upfront with me about. And he went, and he had to swallow, like they were psychically attacking him so bad. After there was something, he kept on getting interruption. And then I realized, wait a second, holy shit. I'm driving, because now I'm facing a snowstorm going from Alberta to Saskatchewan. And I'm driving, and it's like, oh my gosh. And I remember the oddest thing. I had this amethyst crystal, and it had a pointed end where you can put it in the ground. And this man lived around horses, and he was renting with some others who were sorcerers. And I don't know how good of a kind they were, but I just know, and not that I want to use that phrase by any means. So I was guided by my sourcing team to take that amethyst, put it in the ground by the horses, and they were really calm. And so I did my healing thing, and he was getting interruption. It was really odd stuff going on. That I got out of there, grabbed my crystal, got in the car, started driving, and then I found myself, remove all psychic attacks, ill regard, like, I was using different phrases to help him while I'm driving in a snowstorm. And I think I got to Saskatchewan, somewhere in Saskatchewan. I remember it was like, did that really just happen? We're talking about people do not want people to ascend to a point where if you don't do it their way, they all have this, it's almost like this ladder of points and stuff. I won't have anything to do with that. No way. No way. Please don't. Don't sell your soul. I helped a woman in Calgary. When you feel that, when you're told somebody sold their soul and you get in a car and you drive away and it's so painful, and I'm talking, you feel their pain, but you're not their pain, okay? But you just know it and you cry out of compassion for them. I've been there more than once, crying for compassion for others. When they talk about Freya, and her golden compassion tears, like Mary Magdalene and others, I'm not kidding you. These are beings that are like angelical beings that live human being lives, that are guiding many of us today. And so there are things that are going on in the universe. And I've said this before, you never know if that person who was committed a major crime, who has pulled the trigger, who has done things. I have seen, Spirit has shown me, they have shown me people that are really not well because they're under influence of alcohol and drugs, talking to themselves, saying, no, different things are going on. And then people being shitty to them. I've seen it many times in the past. I've seen it where I'm walking along the street and with a loved one in Alberta, and I'm seeing those that are really sick downtown Edmonton, and they have, like, you can see that they're really sick, and helping them in a different way. And so, and my loved one's not even realizing it around me. And they're agitated sometimes because maybe I'm on a different vibrational level than them, or vice versa, however it may be. And that's okay. It just is. It gives you those doors of opportunity. It's like, just be love. Just be love, as hard as it may be. It's like, sit in that murky water, be the lotus on this planet that you are. Your capabilities of being love and compassion. Get yourself busy. Get your hands busy. Be creative. Do a video, please. Share your story. Do a video. It doesn't matter if you get no likes. Trust me. With AI, you'd be surprised what goes on behind the scenes. I remember this one man. He has this filming crew, or this guy in particular, that films him. And he was like, I do all these videos before. And he would do Dharma teachings. And he said, I get no one. Like, no one seeing them. He said, but then I found when I had more people involved in doing the videos for me, and they started filming him, more people followed along. For me, maybe I'm a soul survivor in a different way. Not that I'm a game player. I remember there was a time going through pain and suffering. I'm like, I'm not going to play the game of life, ascending Master Jesus. Or I referred to him as Joshua at the time. I'm like, I'm not. And so there are times when there's trickery that plays with your mind. It's like the tree out front. I call it Joshua. And I have a path that was made, and underneath it is crystals and dimes and different things. And I remember, like, I see that this guy did this sidewalk, and it's beautiful despite its imperfections, the way he cut the lines. And I think back to when my ex and I poured cement and how level it was. And my ex had the level, and he was, moving it, and he did a magnificent job. And I was there helping with shoveling, and we were doing it while the truck was pouring. And so when they were doing my sidewalk, I knew what they were to do. But my ex was meticulous in a way, the way he would put the slice in the cement, and then he would do a little, you know, anyway, he'd do a magnificent job, not even maybe realizing, because I had mine, and this guy who's a professional didn't even do as good of a job. I kid you not. So that's seeing the good in something in your ex and seeing how creative and magnificent that is, reflecting back to it and being a part of something of creation, using your hands and knowing it and feeling it and embracing that. And so, and knowing that it was a whole family affair, everything from my son and his friend, and saying, okay, I don't remember back then somebody, I don't know if it was a life review reflection, but they're like, oh, that's child labor. I'm like, no, we gave them money if they wanted to move some rocks and move them elsewhere, and they were old enough to lift up rocks and get paid for it. That's not child slavery. Now, don't get me wrong. They were still going to school, they're getting an education, instead of being there playing the video games or watching a movie. They were doing something productive with their hands, and these weren't even big rocks. So pound salt to those who bear judgment on people, unless you really, really know and you're in the universe and you hear things, you automatically assume. That brings me way back to when I got a channeled message. When I remember I had these 2 dogs. One was with us for 14 years. She ended up like all these lumps and cancerous stuff. Her eyes, she couldn't see anymore. She was blind. She would pace around the island, and I was told by the vet we'd have to remove her eyes. And you can still let her live a life. It's just not going to be. And so we had to put her down at 14 years old, and that was very hard. And my ex at the time was out of town, and she was very attached to him. And so maybe my son and I took that opportunity away from him, saying goodbye, but he was full of gratitude at that time, because he knew that he couldn't bear it, because he had one of the cats that we had, and he put her down in a different way that, back, the way farmers would. And that was really hard on me. And I'm not trying to throw him under the bus by sharing this. It's just that people still today do that. And I know that changed him, where he became a lot more compassionate. And these 2 dogs that we had together, there was a point where the one that remained after, I call her his sister, I took him everywhere. And I remember this medium where she came in when they were really young, and I went to go to get this reading done. And this woman in the country lost her shit when I told her. I said, oh yeah, my son, he has chores. And because I don't know how it started, but it just said he has chores. And, because they're little chihuahuas, they're teacup chihuahuas, they can't go outside to poop. So we have the pee pad, and they go on it, and he helps clean it up. And this is when he was younger. She lost her shit on me and said child slavery. And so when you're a medium or even a channeler of any sort, and you're cursing somebody, or you're diminishing them, or you're being cruel to them, just know that is so beyond ethical. That's abuse. And so I remember coming home and saying, no more, and cut myself off. So thank you. So there are many doors of opportunity that closed for good reason, and many other doors opened at that time. The love and compassion for my dogs, where I took responsibility, my ex and I, we never had our son pick up the dog poop anymore for many, many years. And so he got to escape that. It's like a get in a jail free card from having to clean up after the dog's crap. And so in reality here, and I'm not just sharing this in case he sees it, this is my truth. Don't get me wrong, he loves animals. He truly does. I mean, when I think about even the cats and cleaning out the litter, we had a cat, and she passed at 5 years old from a heart attack, and there was nothing we can do. Like, I remember coming home on Valentine's Day, opening the door. My son would usually run down because he had the big screen TV that I had money compensation from the military that I bought. And whether it was government-funded money or not, whatever the case may be, judge me. I've been judged so much. It just is human nature. And so I remember he would run down and he'd play his video games, and we'd never use the TV for ourselves. It was really, all his friends would come and they'd play video games down there. But either way, he experienced trauma by running downstairs and finding the cat had passed. And so we had to run and get her cremated. And so, these can be really hard on children. This can be hard on adults. I remember running to the veterinarian. I remember doing a lot of things alone as a spouse, but choosing to do so at the time. And so, anyway, going back to the synchronicity and what is, just remember it to be so. It can give you tranquility in ways you have no idea, especially if you're worried about your memory, amongst other things. Crossword puzzles, okay, that's pretty mundane to me, but that's just me. I'm not big on, let's learn how to, spell a new word. With AI the way it is, maybe it's not a bad idea, because how many times does your words get autocorrect, but they're not corrected correctly? And then all of a sudden you have somebody on the other end placing judgment upon you because you maybe wrote up a big thing on social media and there's spelling errors, but it's just like, okay, how is it changed to that when really I spelled it this way? And you go back and it's like your own little war with AI. So appreciate the synchronicities and everything, because it'll help bring you, this kindness within you where you're like, okay, I'm not going to bear judgment. I'm being tested right now on the way people speak, on the way people write, on the way people are as human beings. We're perfectly imperfect just the way we are. And I believe that. You have to believe that. That is one thing that this one teacher did teach me that I can walk away from in gratitude, is we are perfectly imperfect just the way we are. And so we have choice, we have free will, but there's sometimes things do get in the way of interference, and it's almost like taking that free will away. It's like when they gaslight you and different things go on, you're like, wait a second here. Where's my free will to have my joy back? And then you just have to keep yourself busy and doing something else, and that'll bring you the simplicity of certain things and seeing clarity. Sometimes even the simplicity of meditation can be difficult, but you can meditate in every which way, whether it's mindfully walking, whether it's just sitting in peace, whether it's the simplicity of putting water by your bedside table, or your nightstand, or a dresser, or even on the floor if you don't have any of those things, and just having it by your bedside to transmit. And let's just say with spirit, trust me, there's those that are doing things behind the scenes that you have no idea about. Monastery monks suggested that, and I remember it being, there were times where I did things automatically, putting water in a table, but you don't drink it. Have a mug with a lid to drink if you have it by your bedside. An open glass of water if you're not drinking it right away. And of course, you can bless the water yourself. People may curse me for saying that, but you can turn around and just, some people use a shukure symbol in their mind, in their hand, which is Reiki. Some people may just say blessings for water and creation and all who make it possible. Because remember, we don't just get water coming to a tap automatically, right? And so the simplicity in life compared to what it was like at one time. And if time doesn't exist, parallel lives. And if you don't, some refer to as past lives. So just know that things are a lot simpler in 2026 when this is being recorded than it was once in like 1914, for example. Or even for some people, they don't have the simplicity. Some people still, I remember being in the house at a big storm and inviting a coworker to go at our new house that didn't have plumbing yet. And we'd have to go outside into the outhouse. And I remember her turning around saying, "Your outhouse is haunted." I kind of chuckled. She said, "No, I'm serious. I have visitation all around the outhouse." I'm like, the wind's blowing and this and that. And I know I believe in spirit. I've believed in spirit my whole life. I've been in elevators, different places where spirit is stronger. People may say there's a portal hole. Different things. Some people may say that's residual energy when it doesn't talk back to you. People may say, different things, different beliefs, different faith. A lot of people don't know this stuff, and that's okay. At the same time, though, in all honesty, you'd be surprised how people become sick. And it's not even their fault. And it's possible it's not even part of their plan or their path. And it's an early exit plan. And that's really hard for me to swallow. Really hard. At the same time, there's those that teach, no, this is all everybody's plan. And I don't even like using the exit plan. There was another word the Spirit brought, like a completion of life. And we can have completions of life in a way, one day, one life, living, moving forward moment to moment. There can be completions in ways where you're like, okay, here I completed this path on this journey. There's a doors, and now I'm starting a new one. There's a completion and ending to something, and now I'm veering towards something totally different. And so just remember, however it is received, however it may be. Like for years, I remember the programming that somebody would say something, and then many of the students would say the same thing. And I did it for years. Oh my gosh, years. If I look back, 2019 till now, just recently in the last month, I've stopped saying this saying. And I'm like, I have gratitude in my heart. I don't have to say it out loud. I've been in frontline work for many, many years. I'm going to be my own guru. I'm not putting anyone on a pedestal. I refuse to. I refuse to. I've been through enough pain and suffering, but I also been through enough miracles. I've astral projected. I've astral traveled. I've done things that in an ethical way. But then what is ethics, right? What is it compared to what others and how they make me see things? I just know that it's very different energetically. It's almost like going on strike and saying, no, I'm not doing that. No. I'm standing up as a sovereign being. I was told back in 2019, you're going to be a mover and shaker. You can talk in front of thousands. You could do this. And that teacher at that time was good. But then I found out later, holy shit. The evilness. When I stopped going to the classes, the trauma that happened, and her astral traveling to my house, and then I'm by myself, and I get wrapped in to this conversation to the wind, and the shit that came out of my mouth when I reflect back, and my views and my opinion of myself, and then never mind the shit that's recorded in a way it's hard to describe, and it's like your footprint, and you have this residual shit that comes up, and somebody else may go, oh, didn't you say this? And I know that I've been in somebody else's house, and I'm like, did you say this? And they're like, no. It was residual energy that was left by them already that I picked up in a different way. So that's like people astral projecting, astral traveling, and now they're like, I want to soulfully retrieve everything and everywhere I've been so that I can be wholeness and oneness and what is. Well, you know what? Don't fall for all this trickery. Sit in silence if you have to in the remembrance of what is, and say, please, release all energy, all emotions, anything that is not mine. At the same time, what is may remain. Also ask, and in a prayer kind of way, just the way I'm saying it now, may anything of a soulful imprint, a remembrance of what may be, may stay with me. Don't be doing this defragging. That's an old terminology of where people would compartmentalize everything, all their experiences, and say it's a wide perspective experiences and bringing it into just something. It's almost like, that documentation we're taught. When I do assessments, less is more. But that can leave people to so many perspectives and interpretations of what they're reading because of their own experiences. And that's why assessments are written in a non-judgmental way. But at the same time, somebody can read an assessment, read it one way, and have this part of them come forward from their experience and read it maybe with full compassion, because let's just say you have an assessment when somebody's gone through a divorce and now they're drinking and now it's affecting their mental health and it's a co-occurring disorder. And then all of a sudden, here's somebody that may be reading the assessment at work that's had their experience of a divorce, that is struggling with co-occurring disorder because of their crisis of the divorce, and they're drinking to cope. And now they're reading something and they have such compassion for that person, thinking they're in their shoes, but they're not. Everybody's experience is their own experience. They could be reading it to process their own stuff. But that's when you decompartmentalize, that's when you detach, that's when you're able to be a good worker, because you're not going to, sink yourself into that situation, to say the least. Now, when it comes to spirituality and the way people do things, it doesn't mean you have to do things the way people do things in mental health, frontline work sort of thing. You do your own thing. I just know that behind the scenes shit that goes on, it was good. I laughed when I did. And so simplicity in life. You'd be surprised how certain things do happen for you, not to you. And so I have to look at this whole experience for me right now. I'm not in spiritual denial. I just know that I've had to edge people out of my life because they're doing unruly things that can be cruel. Like, I remember being at church, not telling these people, this couple, not a damn thing about my military background. Nothing. And they knew it would just be like the Twilight Zone. I'd be talking to them, they're like, we're thinking of joining the military because of can't even remember what they said. I just know I was like a deer in headlights going, what the hell? I'm not even saying that. I'm saying that now. But at the time, it was like, oh my gosh. How could they? Why would they? I remember saying to myself, I had taken courses and I thought about being a reverend, and then I was just like, well, maybe I'll, ask this reverend if I could, not shadow, but be there and learn from this person. But I realized my spirit was saying these things would come out and it'd be like me and him bucking up against each other, because he would say certain things about people or say something. I'd be like, no ill regard, no intent, no jealousy. It's all a way of, toxicity. It's not in a way of love and kindness. So I, as a catalyst in a different way. Because I remember when I first went, I would see abuse going on amongst people. And so I just know I was to be assertive. And I didn't realize the terminology at the time. I would call it like I'm witnessing what's going on. And then I couldn't anymore. My heart was palpitating out of my chest. There were things going on, and my guides and me were like, yeah, okay, Tina, your mental health hat's coming on, and you're going to, de-escalate the situation in a different way, and you're going to speak strong in your mind, and you're going to be what you need to be at this moment, at this time. And still show love and kindness and be there for that person. And it was ironic because that person was teaching a class on automatic writing. So then, and really was dealing with a crisis. And instead of standing in front of everybody and saying, maybe now's not a good time to teach. I just went through like a horrible experience. And it's like somebody going up and standing in front of somebody, and like I said, just a horrible experience. And so you have compassion for that person, but at the same time, the guides are coming through and just, having to say what it was that I needed to say. And still showing compassion. Again, still showing compassion and being there in a way of light. So then when I automatically wrote that night, it came through that she is my mother and different things that I never did show her. And so I don't know if the person that was in my life, he invaded I know he held those papers because there was stuff in there about him as well. Not that I was accessing his check records whatsoever. It was almost like past tense stuff. And not that I was trying to, you know, invade that, to say the least. But I kept it very sacred because she wanted to see it. And I was like, no, I can't. I have to keep this sacred. So there was some game playing going on. And I'm glad now that I'm not friends with this person anymore. And it has to be that way. I turned around, there was some writings where there was 4 of us. And I took those writings and I threw them in the God box. And I'm like, I'm leaving it to God. I don't even want to read them. I said, void and void any contracts, anything we said about getting together and reading that stuff that we wrote quite some time ago. And then one girl said, nobody could ever hypnotize me. Nobody. She was in a hypnotic state. I didn't realize my capabilities. And then I was like, okay, spirit. Okay, I can see. Yeah. And then I remember one of the others saying, oh, there's that big dark thing behind you. And I'm like, it was like trying to gaslight me severely, like trying to gaslight me. And so thankfully somebody was there that stood up for me beautifully. And I'm so eternally grateful. And I hope she's going to be okay. Because there's people that are struggling right now with certain things going on. You know, and anyway, I'm not going to breach her confidentiality. So may we have faith in what is, and that is have faith in yourself. Please have faith in yourself, no matter what. Believe what you want to believe in. We're all part of the puzzle. We're all part of the journey. We're all part of the medicine wheel. We're all part of, you know, whether somebody wants to say chess game, whether somebody wants to say characters, whether somebody wants to say whatever faith is for you is okay with me. But just know that card is there, to have faith in something greater. And yet, that is you living the life experience. Have faith in you. Have faith in miracles. Angel Faith, by the way. She helps right here. And more, really. They're all divinely, uniquely connected. Angel Ariel. Miracles. Oh my gosh, I had this card up. Lord Love a Duck. If you only knew. If you only knew. I remember being at the stupa. At the time, my hair caught on fire. Somebody had, one of the lay people, cursed the candle because it had an angel on it. And the person didn't understand. I lit the candle, my hair caught on fire. I'm not blaming her by any means. It happens. So it taught me something about, you know, kind of like, I can't even think of the word right now. It's about, I can't even think of it. You'll know how it is. And so it's a miracle that I don't even have to say. Miracles. The second time it happened, I wrote about it. I remember having candles lit everywhere in my home. And I remember picking up this card. And it had a kind of an inner crystal of abundance with an enlightenment card of Archangel Raphael. And I remember getting up from the table and I stopped at the crystal and I picked this card up. I touched it. I put it down. At the time, I had some prayer grids and I had, well, I still do, but I had this dragon grid. Pretty miraculous. Somebody imprinted, though, afterwards, which was not a love and kindness, and done things that were unethical. But anyway, that person has to own it. And so this miracle card, I remember going to the little end table, and I remember pulling out a heating pad and going, I'm done with that. Wrapping it up, because I know there's times where it's not my pain. I pick up pain bodies. Like, it's pretty bad when you have a warlock that turns around and wishes the pain to go away from somebody else and inflict it on you. That person has to own it. The trickery and things that people do. And so anyway, I went to take this heating pad and I reached down and my hair caught on fire. And was like, I literally seen the smoke. It was like time froze. Just like that movie Click. time froze. I didn't know it at the time, but anyway, I went like this, and I started walking towards the kitchen because I thought I would have to get water, whatever. I started walking to the kitchen, and my hand went like this, and I'm looking at my hand, there's no hair, absolutely no hair. And then I smelled my hair, and I'm like, it smells like smoke. I'm shocked. I sit down at the table, and I'm just like shocked. And then the memories come floating to me about within the last 24 hours, I went and I bought this new shampoo and conditioner, and the lady saying, I hope it works for you, and the thing coming out of my mouth saying, I can't even remember what the words were, I wrote about it, kind of like in so many words, oh, it's gonna work all right. And her, or like stopping in time, looking at me like, it was like a Twilight Zone experience. I can't even explain it. I don't even know if I want to use that word anymore, but either way. So, definitely aging myself when I use it. And so then here I am. The smell is dissipating, and I'm walking upstairs. And while I'm sitting, by the way, I'm having, oh, the water dragon, the air dragon. Oh, wow, the angels. Like, this may seem like an illusion. It wasn't. So it dissipated, and I was like, whoa. As I was walking up the stairs, by the dragon grid I had on the landing, I turned and I was just like, the smell came back. I'm like, okay, thank you. I'm going to put conditioner in my hair. I put my whole head of conditioner. I slept that night. I woke up, went in the shower, and my hair was the most beautiful I've ever been in my lifetime. Thank you, Angel Ariel. Miracles do occur. People think you're nuts, even just sharing that, but it is so beyond true. It's craziness. Miracles do happen. They do happen. After that, there were weird synchronicity, or no, it was like a time jumping thing. Things would start happening where it was like time lapsing. It was like, going around that corner, hearing the horn honk, just go nonstop, and then finding out for spirit, oh, in that life you became a quadriplegic. You were in an accident. It took a long time for somebody to come and help you out. So then you start to see how each lifetime you live, and how, I've told people this before and they thought I was nuts, but that's okay. It's like Jesus Christ, 33, Yahshua, of many names, learned different things, and he lived 33 different times doing pretty much the same thing. Some of us learn, some of us don't. Not saying about Yahshua. No, that's not what I'm saying. It's like he did, so we could all. So it's no surprise that I end up in a wheelchair different in this lifetime than I did before. And seeing the miracle in that. Seeing the miracle of the healing music on my TV screen of Lee Harris's. When I was alone and the nurse would come in and I would play that over and over again, and I would tell the nurse, oh, your daughters are in dance. Oh, they have to do choreography and music and dance to different things. Get them to check out him. A nurse is saying, wow, you're recovering quite quickly. But I'm not just saying it's him. There are others. Being in the hospital, seeing the miracle of Dr. Wayne Greyer, and how he was there in a different way because of the darkness that set in and the things that happen. Tricksters, attachments, players, evil stuff in the ER. Evil. That when I finally went upstairs and he was doing his work in a different way as a human being, and then even afterwards, without a vessel, that's a miracle. That is a miracle. And there were many others that helped create miracles, that truly helped create miracles. So we all hope and pray. And confession corner here. Whenever I learn something from him and other teachers, it's strange how with him, I get mad at disease. I'm like, don't you give me years after this. Whereas there's other teachers that are doing things, and it's a reminder for all of us to see the unethical things. But they haven't, and I don't want to say plateaued. Some people haven't gotten to a place, and I'm not putting you on a pedestal, Lee Harris, or you, Dr. Dreyer, which I'm saying it right. I normally enunciate his name wrong when I'm by myself. It's kind of comical. I'm like, okay, the doctor without an N. He's doing his rounds. I kid you not. And so, so is Sylvia Brown, Louise Hayes, your parents, like you'd be surprised. All of those of the living and not. Sorry to break it to you. Don't be fear-mongered. The best advice I've ever got. Say nothing bad about anyone. By someone who's a miracle, as you are. This person, I can't even imagine what they've gone through. Just know there are angels out there. I don't know why I'm owning in on just this. Some have over 20 years experience as mental health workers. At least one I know, for sure. Can you imagine awakening to the awakening of truth after having that much experience in mental health? And having to walk away from your loved ones like Buddha? Because you got to get to work of helping those in pain and suffering. What a privilege it is to know that he's doing his work beyond what most human beings comprehend. I have to just sit with that for a moment. Since it's confession hour, this monk works or worked with another monk who was born the same year as me. And for some oddly reason, April 1st is coming up. And I noticed that now, even earlier. And you know when you meet someone and you just know there is some soulful stuff there. Would Lord love a duck? Guaranteed if I was to go back to that monastery, I'd be like, okay, you're leaving the monastery now. You're my husband, whether you want to be or not in this lifetime. But do I want to be one of those? Blessings, I love you, you know who I'm speaking of. There are those that do have to leave the monastery and start living a life. And then there are those that have really lived a life that go and join the monastery. But I know this is time for me. This is a miracle. With my dog, who's fast asleep. Either way. Okay.
May you be enriched with enlightenment. May you all be enriched with enlightenment and experience it in this lifetime and know it down deep in every essence of yourself. Know it. Live it. And I knew this card was going to come up even before it did. Sadhu. Sadhu. Sadhu.